Have you ever seen something that seemed to know you were watching? Not just strange, not just unexplained, but something that felt aware of your presence and didn't care. It happened last fall. I hadn't planned to go out that night, but my head was spinning from work, and the silence outside felt cleaner than the noise inside. So I grabbed my jacket and walked toward the ridge. It's maybe a half mile behind my house. Some old fence lines, a few bare trees, and an empty stretch of grassland that used to be farmland before the droughts. I'd walked there dozens of times. Nothing special. Just open sky and the kind of quiet that lets your thoughts stretch out. But that night, the air felt different, thicker, like it was holding something in. About halfway up the trail, I noticed a soft glow, not in the sky, but low, behind the ridge, just over the tall weeds. Pale blue, not flickering, not moving, just hovering. At first, I thought it was a car. Maybe someone parked off the gravel road behind the field. But as I moved closer, I realized there was no engine, no sound at all, and the light didn't cast shadows. It was like looking at something that lit itself, but refused to touch anything else around it. I stopped maybe 30 yards away. My hands were cold, but my palms were sweating. I pulled out my phone to take a picture, and the screen stayed black. Battery full. No cracks. Just black. I blinked. Looked up. The light pulsed once, like it noticed me, and then slowly lifted off the ground. No sound. No motion I could trace. Just up like it was being pulled. As it rose, a second glow appeared beside it. Then a third. 3. In a perfect line. Hovering like sentinels. I don't know how long I stood there. I remember my breath fogging in front of me and the soft rustle of weeds brushing my leg. But no wind. And then, as suddenly as they came, the lights vanished. No fade. No movement. Just gone. I turned and walked home without thinking. Didn't run. Didn't look back. It wasn't fear exactly. It was more like I didn't want to interrupt something that wasn't meant for me. The next morning, I checked my phone again. Still no image, but something had changed. In my photo roll, there was a picture I didn't take. Just one. It was a shot of the ridge, blurry, but clearly mine. The same trail, the same broken fence post. Except, in the picture, there was no light, no night sky. The image looked washed out, like it had been taken during daylight. But I hadn't been there in daylight for weeks. I showed it to a friend who's into photography. He pointed out a strange reflection in the corner, a kind of arc like a lens flare, but reversed. It bent inward. He laughed it off, said I probably pocket-snapped it and messed with the exposure. But I know what I saw. And that photo, that's not my memory. That's theirs. I don't walk that way anymore. Not because I'm scared, but because part of me feels like I already saw more than I should have. Like the lights weren't showing me anything. They were checking something. Me, maybe. Some nights I still wake up thinking I see a pale blue glow through the blinds. Always for just a second. Always gone before I can be sure. But I've started keeping my phone in a drawer at night, and I've turned off the cloud sync. Not because I want to forget, but because some memories weren't meant to be saved. I didn't plan to talk about this part. To be honest, I wasn't even sure it happened until last week. You know how sometimes memory folds in on itself? Like, you remember remembering something, but not the thing itself? It was about 3 days after the lights. I'd been trying to move on. Convinced myself I imagined it. Maybe it was drone testing. Maybe some rare atmospheric thing. But the unease didn't leave. Not fear, just pressure, like a quiet weight hanging around the edges of my thoughts. That night, I had to drive into town. Just a 15-minute trip. 2 turns, a straight road, a railroad crossing. I've done it 100 times. But this time, something was off. The crossing gate was down. No train, no lights, no rumble on the rails. Just the bar lowered, frozen. I waited. 30 seconds. A minute. Then I saw him. A man, standing just past the tracks. Not walking, not fidgeting. Just standing. He wore a black coat. No hat. Shoulders squared. Arms by his sides. But what caught me was that he was facing away from me, toward the woods. It was late, maybe close to midnight. No one should have been out there. I rolled down the window, halfway, just to say something. But before I could speak, he turned, slow, precise, like he already knew I was there. And that's when it hit me. I couldn't see his face. Not because it was shadowed, because there was nothing there. Not blank, like featureless. Just wrong, like a placeholder. A shape pretending to be human. I blinked hard and suddenly he was gone. Not walked away. Not vanished in light. Just not there anymore. The gate lifted. I drove through, slowly, watching both sides of the road. My hands gripped the wheel too tightly. And my radio, which had been off, started playing static. No volume bar. No station. Just static. Then a whisper. Right behind it, barely audible. Turn around. I slammed the radio off. It kept playing. I pulled over just past the gas station, heart pounding. Killed the engine. Got out. Tried to breathe. The air smelled sharp, like ozone and burning plastic. That's when I saw something under my windshield wiper. A business card. Plain. Unmarked. Just a single embossed circle. I flipped it over. No text. No logo. Just a faint smear, like a fingerprint that never dried. I took it home and left it on my desk. Didn't touch it again. But the next morning it was gone. And my phone? Factory reset. All apps gone. All files gone. Except one. A voice memo. Untitled. It was only 3 seconds long. And it said, "You look back." For the next few days, little things shifted. Emails missing. My calendar showing appointments I never made. Lights flickering at exactly the same time each night. 2:14 a.m. And my sleep? I stopped dreaming. Or maybe I stopped remembering dreams. Either way, I woke up exhausted. Like something had used me. I told myself I was being paranoid. That sleep deprivation messes with memory. But then yesterday, I was cleaning out the glove compartment and found another card. Same as before, except this one had a tiny, handwritten note on the back. 5 words. "You're closer than you think." What does that mean? I don't know, but tonight, the static came back. Not from the radio. From inside the house. I heard it humming from the walls, like wires buzzing inside drywall. And just now, as I sat down to record this, I noticed something new on my laptop. A folder. Untitled. I didn't put it there. Inside, a single image. It's me, sitting at my desk, taken from behind. I didn't tell her at first. Not about the lights. Not about the man at the crossing. Not even about the photo that showed me sitting at my desk. Taken from behind. I thought I was protecting her. Mallory had always been more grounded than me. The kind of person who double-checks locks and unplugs appliances before bed. She believed in logic, in evidence, so I stayed quiet until she brought it up first. It was a Thursday night. She'd just gotten off a late shift and showed up at my place with takeout, and that look she gets when something's been eating at her brain. We were sitting on the couch, TV on but muted. She hadn't touched her food. Then she said, "I saw something weird on my phone this morning." I looked up. "What do you mean?" She hesitated, bit her lip. I was reviewing a voice memo I recorded, just a little ambient thing I was working on. But when I played it back, there was something underneath. Like what? She pulled out her phone, opened the file, and hit play. At first, just wind, leaves, a dog barking far off. Then a sound underneath. Not static, not a glitch. A voice, deep, hollow, like it was coming through a metal pipe filled with water. It said, "He shouldn't have told you." My stomach dropped. She paused the file and looked at me. "You didn't tell me anything," she said. "But someone thinks you did." I told her everything that night. The lights, the face without features, the cards. She didn't flinch, didn't accuse me of making it up, but her hands were shaking the whole time. That weekend, we decided to get out of town, just for a night. Someplace with no signal, no cameras, no noise. There's a cabin in Pine, hollow I used to stay at years ago. No Wi-Fi, barely even electricity. We packed light, left before sunset, and for a while, it worked. The silence felt clean again. We played cards, read, watched the fire die down. But at around 3 a.m., we both woke up. There was a knock on the cabin door. 3 knocks, evenly spaced. No voice, no movement outside the window. I held my breath, waited. Another knock. Mallory whispered, "Don't answer." We stayed frozen for what felt like an hour. Eventually, the sound stopped. In the morning, I stepped outside. Nothing there. No footprints. No tire tracks. Just a single object on the doormat. A microcassette tape. No label. Just a number etched into plastic. 14. We didn't have anything to play it on, so we took it back to the city. That evening, I went digging through an old box of electronics in my storage closet and found a tape player. Still worked. I pressed play. First silence, then wind, then voices. Hours from the night before. Every word we said inside the cabin, even the whisper, even the part where I said, "I think they're watching us." We never recorded anything. We didn't bring a mic. And yet there was. Everything. Clear. Perfect. Until the final seconds. A third voice came in. One I didn't recognize. And it said, "Tape 14 confirmed. Proceed to next phase." Mallory left the next day. Not because we fought, but because we both knew something had shifted. This wasn't just lights anymore. Not just phones and photos and whispers. This was interference. Like someone or something had started editing reality around us. I don't sleep much now. And when I do, I sometimes dream of static. Not sound, but the texture of it. Like swimming in broken signals. The last time I saw Mallory, she handed me a USB stick. Said, "If anything else happens, don't tell me. Just save it for later." I asked what was on the drive. She said, "I don't know. I don't remember making it. I haven't opened it yet. But sometimes when I pass by my desk at night, my computer screen flickers. Just for a second, like something's trying to open itself. And I keep thinking, what if they're not watching us from somewhere else? What if they're already inside the signal?" There's a memory I have, except I'm not sure it's mine. It came to me 2 nights ago. Just after 3 a.m., I woke up suddenly, not from a dream, but from silence. A silence so complete it felt intentional, like the world had paused to let something through. I was lying in bed, staring at the ceiling. The air was still, too still, and for a second, I had this overwhelming certainty. Someone else had been in the room just before I opened my eyes. Not a sound, not a shape, just an absence, a missing. And then the memory hit me, clear, vivid, too vivid. I was standing on a highway overpass. The sun was setting behind me. The wind was cold, and I was holding a small tape recorder, one I haven't seen since college. A voice was playing through it. It said, "Do not resist the edit." I had no idea where that came from. I've never been to that overpass. I haven't owned that recorder in over 10 years. And yet, I remember it. Not like a dream. Not like a movie. Like I had lived it. I sat up in bed. Tried to shake it off. Told myself it was just mental bleed, maybe from the stress or the tape Mallory left me. But when I turned on my lamp, I noticed something. My bookshelf was wrong. One row had changed. Not rearranged. Changed. Books I didn't remember owning. Titles I'd never seen before. Authors I didn't recognize. And on the third shelf, a small white envelope. No name. No stamp. Just a single circle, hand-drawn in black ink. Inside the envelope was a photograph. Blurry. Old. It showed me, again, this time standing at the same highway overpass, from the memory I shouldn't have. Same jacket. Same sunset. Same recorder in my hand. That photo broke something in me, because now I don't know what's real. I called Mallory. No answer. Voicemail disconnected. I tried to log into the cloud backup, where I'd been saving audio files from the last few weeks. Gone. The folder still existed, but it was empty Worse, when I clicked properties, it said, last modified, January 17th, 1983. I wasn't even born yet. That day, I started noticing other things. Subtle at first. The clock in my living room running 4 minutes fast, no matter how many times I adjusted it. My keys moving from the kitchen counter to the bathroom sink. Emails replying to themselves, but not with my words. One message said, your version of events is outdated. We are restoring. I tried to write everything down, pen and paper, but every time I came back to reread my notes, the handwriting looked less like mine. Letters tilted differently. Numbers slashed the wrong way. Words I would never use, like overwrite and compliance. The worst part happened last night. I received the calendar alert on my phone. An event I didn't set. It said, recording scheduled, 3:12 a.m. That's the time I always wake up. I tried deleting it. It reappeared, again and again. At 3:12 I was wide awake. I sat in the dark, waiting. At exactly that minute, my phone lit up. Voice memo started recording. Automatically, no way to stop it. And as it recorded, I heard breathing. Not mine, not nearby. It was behind the microphone. And then a voice, almost a whisper. We've corrected the memory. You may proceed. This morning, the file was gone. But a new note was taped to my mirror. A sticky note I didn't write. 5 words. You've always lived like this. And maybe they're right. Maybe this isn't something that started. Maybe this has always been a world. We just don't notice the edits until they glitch. Maybe I didn't see the lights. Maybe the lights let me see them. I don't know anymore. But if you're hearing this, ask yourself one thing. Do you remember everything exactly the way it happened? And if the answer is no, maybe you were never meant to. There used to be a diner just off Highway 18. White vinyl booths, a cracked jukebox by the window, and a cherry pie that Mallory swore could fix your entire week. It was called the Lantern. That's where we first talked about the lights, where I first showed her the card, where this whole thing began. Maybe last week I decided to go back, not for nostalgia, but because I needed proof, something physical, something I could point to and say, this part was real, this happened. I left just after noon. The sun was high, the drive was quiet. Until I got there, the turnoff was gone. No road sign, no gravel path, just trees, dense, overgrown, like no one had cut through that patch in decades. I slowed to a crawl, checked my GPS. No marker, no name, not even an error, just blank space between coordinates. But I remembered. I knew that curve in the road, the old split rail fence, the yellow fire hydrant half buried in weeds. They were all still there, everything except the diner. I parked at the shoulder and walked in, or tried to, because where the parking lot should have been was just more trees, thick roots, untouched soil, as if no one had ever paved it. And yet, at my feet in the leaves, a plastic fork, red and white striped, exactly the kind they use at the Lantern. I picked it up. It was warm, not sun warm, fresh warm, like someone had just left it there. Back in town, I asked around. Gas station clerk, librarian, even Jeff from the patrol office. None of them remembered a diner called the Lantern, not off Highway 18, not anywhere nearby. I even pulled out an old photo of me and Mallory, sitting in a booth, napkin with the Lantern logo in the corner. They looked at the photo, but no one could read the name. One guy squinted and said, I think the letters are glitched. Glitched, like it was a corrupted file. That night, I searched the county archives. Business listings, zoning records, everything from the last 30 years. Nothing. No record, no building permit, no inspection history. Just a gap, like the space had been cut and taped over. And then, buried in a scanned newspaper clipping from 2009, a line in the obituaries. Rosemary Delmont, 68, longtime owner of the Lantern Cafe, passed peacefully in her sleep. That was it. No photo, no address, just a ghost of a footnote. I printed the clipping, folded it into my journal, and wrote in all caps. They can't erase everything. But even as I wrote it, my hand hesitated, because suddenly I couldn't remember what Rosemary looked like. I know I met her. I remember her voice, low and raspy, always laughing. But her face? Nothing, just a blur behind my eyelids. Like someone had taken an eraser to my neurons. I got desperate, pulled out the USB stick Mallory gave me, plugged it into my old offline laptop. There was only one file inside, a folder named Lantern_01. Inside, audio logs, a single photo, and a text file labeled donotrename.txt. I opened the audio first. It was me, sitting at the diner, talking, but there was no reply. It sounded like I was answering questions, but only my voice was audible. Then, toward the end, another voice cut in, faint, processed, like it had been run through multiple filters. Test site compromised. Signal retained. Subject shows resistance. Click. The file ended. The photo? It showed the diner, but not how I remember it. There was no signage, no lights on inside, and two figures standing at the back near the dumpsters. Suits, black, faces blurred. One of them had their hand raised, like they were waving, but it looked more like a signal. The text file was short, just one line, do not return. The edit holds better if you let go. I closed the laptop, sat in silence, because that's the game, isn't it? Not just erasing places, but erasing your willingness to remember them. They don't need to destroy the past. They just have convinced you it never mattered. But I remember the cherry pie. I remember the jukebox. I remember the sound the bell made when the door swung open. And I remember Mallory looking me dead in the eyes and saying, they'll come for the memories first. Let them try. It started with an email, not from Mallory, not from anyone I recognized. No subject, no message body, just one attachment. In a WAV file named Yaorai.wave. I almost didn't open it, thought it might be malware, but something about the timestamp stopped me. Created 2:37 a.m., the same minute my phone lit up with static last week. I clicked play. It was a voice. Male, tired, breathless, like he'd been running. I don't know how much time I have. My name is Elliot. I used to work in digital archiving for the State Historical Board in Oregon. 6 months ago, I found something. Pause. Rustling papers. Distant beeping. It was a series of microfilm records, not on our system, not part of any collection. They looked real, but when I scanned the barcodes, the metadata pointed to future dates, like 2037, 2041, as if someone had filed these records before they even happened. I froze, because I knew that tone, that edge of fear wrapped in logic. I'd sounded the same when I found the USB. One of the files was labeled Lantern Deletion, Local Interference Report 07. I stopped breathing. He continued. There was an image, blurry, time-stamped 6 years ago. It showed two people sitting in a diner. The logo on the napkin said Lantern, and one of them was you. I paused the audio, stared at the wall for a long time. How did a government file contain a picture of me and Mallory in a place that no longer existed, from a time no one remembered? I hit play again. After I accessed that file, things started going sideways. Archive permissions revoked. My supervisor stopped answering. Then, 2 days later, I found my own employment record had been scrubbed from the internal system, like I never worked there. I backed up what I could, encrypted the footage, and mailed it to 3 random P.O. boxes across the state. Then I went off-grid. But last night, someone sent me a photo. It was a picture of me asleep at a motel, taken from inside the room. The recording ended abruptly. No sign-off, no follow-up, just that file. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Elliot, about the way his voice cracked when he said my name. If he saw me in the archive, then that means whatever's doing this isn't just watching. It's recording, cataloging. I checked my old inbox. Searched for anything from Elliot. Found nothing. Then, out of habit, I checked my spam folder. There it was. A second email. Subject: we never left the diner. Body: one sentence. Asked him why the sunrise loops every 19 frames. And a link. I didn't click it right away. I copied the link. Opened it on a clean, offline laptop. It was a frame-by-frame breakdown of a security camera feed. A view of a small roadside diner. Time-stamped at 5:36 a.m. Everything looked normal, except every 19 frames, the sunlight outside would reset. Birds would fly by, then snap back. Coffee steam would curl, then curl again. A looping moment inside what looked like real time. I looked closer, at the person in frame. It was me, sitting by the window, but I've never been to that diner. Not once. Still, there I was, wearing the same jacket I lost last year, sipping coffee, smiling like I belonged. I don't know what's worse, the fact that they're watching, or the fact that they've already recorded me into events I haven't lived yet. Maybe this is a new frontier, not just rewriting what's real, but preloading lives for us to grow into. A kind of future retrofitting, a forced memory lane we never chose. And if that's true, then Mallory was right. They don't need you to believe. They just need you to stop asking. But I won't. If you're hearing this, Elliot, I got your message. And if you're still out there, we're not the only ones, are we? It came in the mail. No return address. Just a padded envelope. Postmarked from Nevada. Inside, a cassette tape, a Polaroid, and a folded piece of paper. My name was on it, in Mallory's handwriting. No, dear, no from. Just don't trust the silence. Listen before they overwrite this too. I didn't even have a tape player anymore. Took me a whole day to find one at a pawn shop near Ridgeline. When I finally hit play, her voice filled the room. Soft, shaky, like she recorded it in secret. Whispering under a blanket. If you're hearing this, it means I didn't make it to the checkpoint. I'm sorry I disappeared. I wanted to tell you everything, but that's the thing with memory edits. The moment you speak it, it starts to unravel. I wasn't supposed to remember you. I sat down. Hard. The tape clicked softly. You asked me once why I knew about the card, the diner, the lights. I didn't lie, but I didn't tell you the whole thing. Pause. I was part of it. Not the core, but the second tier. Field relay. My job was to monitor those who started seeing beyond the veil. Like you, I wanted to stop listening, but I couldn't. We call it the edit. It's not some massive conspiracy with computers and satellites. It's older, stranger. Think of it like the story engine of reality. When something happens that doesn't fit, a moment, a glitch, a place that refuses to settle into the script, the edit rewrites it, not by force, but by suggestion. People forget, evidence corrupts, roads vanish, memories shift shape just enough. The air in the room felt thick, like the tape was releasing something more than sound. But sometimes, someone resists. Someone holds onto the wrong version too long. Those are the people I was assigned to. You weren't the first, but you were the only one who ever made me question the system. She paused again. I heard her take a breath, deep, slow, like she was steadying herself. The day we met wasn't the first time. We met before, twice. Once in 2018, and once in a version of the diner that never reopened. I remembered both, because I broke protocol. I felt tears, without knowing why. The idea of us meeting again and again, but only one of us remembering each time. They warned me, said I'd lose placement access, even my anchor identity, that I'd start slipping if I got too close. But I didn't care. Because when you told me about the lights, you didn't describe them like a sighting. You described them like a question that had always been waiting for you. The Polaroid she included showed the two of us, not at the diner, but sitting on a roof. Blankets, coffee mugs, stars behind us, no city lights. I've never been there, but the moment I saw it, I missed it I missed a moment I'd never lived. The tape crackled. They're gonna try again, not just to erase places, but to pre-write outcomes. You were never supposed to ask about the diner, or the 13 frame, or me. But now you know. Another breath. There's a fail-safe built into memory, a shape the edit can't clean, something called the fold. It's not a location. It's not even time. It's a question without an answer. If you ever feel like a memory is starting to blur, if you see a place disappear between blinks, ask yourself one thing. The tape clicked once. Who told you it had to be this way? And then silence, but not empty. It felt held, like even the pause had meaning. I sat with it, long after the tape spun out, watching it loop, spinning nothing, because she wasn't just leaving me a message. She was leaving a key. That night, I dreamed about the roof again, about the coffee, her laugh, the warmth and the cold air. But this time, when I looked down, there was a thin line of light running across the skyline. Not a street lamp, not the moon. Something folded, like the world had a seam, and something was waiting just beneath it. They think they've won. That removing her from my life resets the story. But they don't know. She left the original script in my chest, word by word, and I will read it back, even if I have to do it from the end toward the beginning. I waited 2 weeks. No more calls. No more knocks. No strange men in suits. No lights in the field. Just stillness, like the world exhaled, and then held its breath. But I didn't feel relief, because it didn't feel over. It felt like they were watching to see if I'd forget. I started testing myself. Wrote down memories. Every detail I could recall. Faces, smells, times, words. Then sealed them in envelopes. 2 days later, I checked them. Compare the paper to what I remembered in my head. Sometimes they didn't match. Whole lines missing. Sentences reversed. Even my handwriting off, like someone imitating me. That's when I realized it wasn't just about erasing. They were rewriting. Quietly, incrementally. Not enough for panic. Just enough to wear me down. One night, I tried something different. I took a mirror, sat in front of it in total darkness, and whispered a sentence Mallory once told me. Truth is a thing that survives the edit. I said it once, then again, each time softer. On the 4th repetition, the mirror flickered, just for a second, a flash of static across the glass, like a corrupted memory trying to stabilize. I wrote down the time, 3:33 a.m. The next day, I drove back to the diner, or where the diner used to be. Nothing there now, just weeds and broken asphalt. But when I stood on the cracked concrete, I heard something, a hum, soft, low, like a heartbeat beneath the world. I stepped forward, and the sky stuttered, like a frame dropped. It happened again the next night, and the next, always in the same places. The road where I first saw the lights, the tree where I buried the broken USB, the storage unit I never rented, but still had a key for. Each location, glitched, but not randomly. It was like the edit was struggling to hold the shape of reality around me. I began mapping it, each anomaly, each skipped second, each frozen screen, lost email, flickering light, and the pattern was clear. It was spiraling inward, toward one location, toward me. The night it broke, I wasn't sleeping. I'd stopped sleeping, mostly. Didn't trust what might change when I closed my eyes. But at 4:12 a.m., every light in the house went out. My phone screen turned white. Not black, white. And then she spoke, not from the speaker, not in my head, in the air, like the room itself shaped her voice. The fold is open. Step through before they patch the frame. I stood, walked to the mirror. Same one I'd tested. This time I saw it, not my reflection, but the roof, the one from the photo, from the dream. And she was there, waiting, not smiling, not sad, just holding the place. I reached forward, and my hand passed through the glass. No sound, no light, just a correction. A quiet acceptance that this moment was the original script, before the edits, before the resets, before the silence. I stepped in. There was no flash, no reveal, just breath, air, stars above, the weight of a mug in my hand, and her voice. Now remember, the fold is not a place. It's a refusal, a decision to keep what should have been. Even when the system says otherwise, even when the world forgets, even when your own memories betray you. I don't know how long I've been here, or if here is even the right word, but I know this. The edit doesn't hold. Not when we remember together. Not when we speak the old names. Not when we write it down and read it out loud. So if you've heard this story, if something in it rings too true, if you've ever felt the world stutter, or stared at a place that shouldn't exist but somehow does, then maybe the fold has found you too. And maybe you'll remember what they tried to erase. Look for the seams. Hold the story. Don't trust the silence.